The Justice Department saying just within the last few minutes that it, quote, strongly disagrees with the decision to block, at least temporarily, the president's $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund, but confirms that they will abide by that decision and put it on pause. This fund is something that's caused major friction among Republicans. It's basically prompted senators to grind things to a halt over concerns the money could go to people who assaulted police officers on January 6th. Senate Majority Leader John Thune told our team on Capitol Hill about an hour ago that the administration should just, quote, shut it down. You know, the DOJ puts out this statement. It says they disagree, but they're going to comply. Do they have an option? Like, was not complying an option?
Yeah, it's not much of a concession, Casey. You have to comply with a valid order from a federal district court judge, whether you like it or not. You certainly can appeal. But coming out with this long announcement, dramatically announcing that they will comply, I think Kristen Holmes's assessment we just heard is spot on. There's got to be a reason for that. There's got to be some signaling and some messaging behind it. And Casey, bigger picture, I think anywhere you turn, political branch, judiciary branch, this slush fund is doomed. It's running into dead ends left and right. And I think it's only a matter of time before the plug gets pulled altogether when you assess the landscape out there.
So, David Urban, I mean, from a political perspective, is this exactly what Ellie is essentially outlining here? Like, they needed to send a message to Republicans on Capitol Hill, so they make a big deal about announcing something that you know, they have to do?
Yeah, I think, I'm not so sure. It's like in that Monty Python movie where I'm not dead yet. They're dragging people out to the cart. It may not be completely dead, but it's pretty dead. And I think, you know, what's helped in this a little bit is that Mike Johnson maybe talked to the president and John Thune talked to the president. And I don't know how those conversations went, but if I were either of those gentlemen, I would say, hey, listen, you know, you just took out Massey. You really made Nancy Mace angry. These people are going to go crazy when you get up here. They're going to make this so difficult for us to do. And Thune could have the same discussion. Now we've got all these wild card Republicans. They're going to make it impossible. And so neither Johnson nor Thune has to be the bad person in that conversation. We could point out to the president, it's going to be impossible for us to get this through. So let's focus on something else, right? And maybe the president heard that at this finally, and now we have this court order there. So, you know, not dead yet, but pretty close to dead.
Well, let's look at, David, I do take your point on the way you talk to President Trump to try to get him to do something. If you're a Republican, as many have learned, it can be tricky business. This is probably not someone he necessarily was listening to as these decisions have been unfolding in Washington, but it's still pretty noteworthy that Donald Trump's former vice president, Mike Pence, spoke out over the weekend about this so-called weaponization fund. Here's what he had to say.
It's deeply offensive to me that you could have a fund that could even possibly compensate people who assaulted police officers or vandalized the Capitol on January 6th. And I think that's broadly held by most Republicans and most Americans.
David, let me just stick with you. I mean,
well, Mike Pence is like, listen, wait, hold on. You're gonna give people who are trying to kill me money? Like, I find that offensive. I think that's Mike Pence's take on it already.
Well, and it seems
I'm
like
not speaking
a fair
for the former
take.
vice president, but you know, you don't have to be a genius to kind of get where he's coming from.
Yeah. Alex Thompson, when you kind of are reporting and are talking to people on Capitol Hill, Republicans, Democrats, I mean, what do you hear about this fund and why it more than anything else has been such a problem for the president?
Well, some of this is just timing, and it's a sign that the Republican Senate is no longer a rubber stamp for Donald Trump, and some of that's the consequence of Trump's own actions, because Trump endorsed against Bill Cassidy, against John Cornyn. They only have 53 votes. You also have Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, and Mitch McConnell, who aren't automatic yeses. They do not have automatically the votes. And so what you are seeing a Senate Republican leadership pushing back against Trump in a way they used to not, because they've always known that loyalty is a one-way street with Donald Trump, but Trump is actually going through with it and displacing their own colleagues, and that is part of the reason why you're seeing this.
Yeah, we didn't even mention Thom Tillis, who probably is the most freedom of all of them, having decided to resign himself. One other person who had some comments about this over the weekend that stuck out to us here at the arena was Jon Ossoff. He's the senator from Georgia. He's, of course, running for re-election, and a big test for him if he can hang on to this seat in a state like Georgia. His political prospects already starting to generate more chatter about his future, but certainly they would be dramatically stronger should he win this race. But it's worth listening to what he had to say over the weekend when he was campaigning in Atlanta. Watch.
He sued the U.S. government he commands for $10 billion. Then he settled the suit with himself to create a $1.8 billion slush fund so he can cut checks to cronies and Jan 6 foot soldiers. The same men who sacked the Capitol to seize the presidency for Donald Trump, who beat police officers with flagpoles, built a gallows on the Capitol lawn, and hunted the vice president to lynch him. Donald Trump's brown shirts. He pardoned them, and now he wants you to pay him.
Xochitl Hinojosa,
Yes.
what do you think?
That looks like a
Good speech.
senator. Great speech. Looks like a senator that is will be talked about for 2028, but needs to win his Senate seat first. The interesting part of this is he makes a really good point. Is this all started because Donald Trump believed that he needed to give something to his greatest allies, which is why there was this weaponization committee at the Justice Department for quite some time, where they were trying to dig up. They were looking, frankly, through all of our emails, trying to dig up what could they find. They haven't been able to find anything. So Todd Blanche was like, "We'll do this fund. We'll give these allies some money, and hopefully this will please Donald Trump, and I can continue my job here at the Justice Department." Now, what will be interesting, and I was talking to former DOJ officials, is whether or not some of these individuals now file claims regardless to the Justice Department and file their own lawsuits, and the Justice Department then does not have to disclose whether or not they have actually paid these individuals, unless it is through FOIA or congressional oversight. So I will say, Democrats taking the House in November will be key to some of this oversight, because otherwise I am not sure Republicans will be able to draw any sort of answer out of the Justice Department.
There has been a settlement. There have been, they've settled already with Ashley Babbitt's, family for $5 million roughly. So you can sue the government under normal circumstances and get
Well,
get
and
an
they don't have to
outcome,
make it,
right.
but they don't have to make
Right.
it public, which that I think is the big question: is how do you know that the federal government, whether or not they're giving funds out to these January 6ers?
Right. Well, and again, I mean, the question surrounding people for whom there is evidence, video of them assaulting police officers as this all unfolded. Mariana Sotomayor, one piece of the puzzle here is what Democrats have been planning to do in this reconciliation fight. It's all very much down in the weeds, but basically, because the Republicans want to do this, they open themselves up to a situation where Democrats get to basically force them to vote on things that otherwise they wouldn't be forced to vote on. And Chuck Schumer said, we'll be ready to use amendments to try to kill this fund, to put them all on the record on the fund. How much is that playing into all of this?
I mean, yeah, Democrats are definitely lining up a number of amendments. Just think of, for example, Lisa Slotkin, Mark Kelly, Adam Schiff. They are claiming that they have been, quote unquote, weaponized by the government because they have been investigated by the
government has been weaponized
against them. Exactly. Yeah. So they're like, okay, if you are allowing that opportunity for the J6ers, then why can't we also go ahead and file these same claims? So they are going to be lining up amendments on that front. Also, there's talk by Republicans still to introduce amendments that potentially prevents any president from creating such a fund. So just because this is going away, it seems for the time being, it is still possible that Republicans put guardrails, especially on the Senate side, on something like this, which will definitely still cause divisions, probably on the House side, but I wouldn't underestimate the leadership's role here. I'm hearing from a number of aides, even in the last couple of minutes, they're waiting for the White House to tell them what exactly they should be voting on. But Mike Johnson, I think it's no coincidence that he was at the White House today and you see these announcements. If there's a leader that Trump still very much listens to, even though his conference may not want him as speaker moving forward, Johnson still has a way with Trump.
Ellie Honig, can I get you to weigh in on kind of what David was outlining about what is possible and not possible in absent this fund, right? If this is stopped by the courts, I mean, what does happen if someone in the U.S. has a complaint with their government? What recourse do they have to try to fix it?
Well, Urban is correct. Ordinarily, people can and do sue the U.S. government if they've been wronged. It could be because of a wrongful prosecution. It could be because they got hit by a U.S. Postal Service truck. It happens all the time. The way you have to do it is, first of all, you have to have an actual lawsuit. And there was questions about whether Donald J. Trump individual versus Donald J. Trump's IRS counted as an actual lawsuit. But if you go through with that actual lawsuit, then you can either go to trial or you can reach a settlement. And yes, DOJ does settle with people all the time. Michael Flynn, for example, got paid reportedly over $1 million separate and apart from and before this whole weaponization fund came about. Now, there's problems with that. As Sochi said, we don't have great transparency. We don't know exactly who or how much money, but that's sort of undermines the craziness of this fund itself. People can put in claims. If they can show they were wronged, they can get paid. It happens all the time. But I think when this Justice Department took a case that was basically Trump versus Trump and said, now we're going to set up this other massive pool of money that's basically going to be open to people, including violent January 6 rioters, I think it really focused the attention on the special treatment those folks are getting. And I think that's why you're seeing so much pushback